There's cancel culture, and then there is consequence culture. Big difference. When you openly celebrate the assassination of a God-fearing family man, a great patriot like Charlie Kirk, you're engaging in pure demonic evil. That's why it's been so disturbing to see doctors, teachers, healthcare workers, and people from all walks of life take to social media over this past week and basically dance on Charlie's grave in the cruelest of ways. Many of these people have lost their jobs as a result, not because of voicing their opinions, but because they are supporting and promoting the cold-blooded murder of a fellow American. That's some sick stuff that says a lot about the very low moral character of this wretched bunch. So it should come as no surprise that their employers have now cut them loose. There are consequences for very bad and disgusting behavior. Imagine that. Left-wing late-night host Jimmy Kimmel just found that out the hard way. ABC announced that it's pulling his show off the air indefinitely after Kimmel falsely claimed on national TV that Charlie Kirk's killer was a MAGA Republican, even though it's been well established that the gunman was a radical leftist who was living with his transgender partner. Very MAGA, or not. Folks, Kimmel once again showed that he's little more than a hateful, anti-Trump propagandist masquerading as a late-night comedian. And now he's out. Johnny Carson and Jay Leno, where have you gone? FCC Chairman Brendan Carr weighed in on how broadcasters stepped up and refused to air Kimmel after his blatant lie about the source of Charlie's death.
Nexstar, as you noted, stood up and said, look, we have the license and we don't want to run this anymore. We don't think it serves the interests of our community. Sinclair did the same thing. So there's more work to go, but I'm very glad to see that America's broadcasters are standing up to serve the interests of their community. We don't just have this progressive foie gras coming out from New York and Hollywood.
Now, I sat down with Chairman Carr recently in Washington, D.C. to break down how, under President Trump, the FCC is making the airwaves fair again and also taking on criminals and communist China. Take a look. Chairman Carr, great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. Hey, big story I think a lot of Americans may not be aware of, but that you're focusing on at the FCC, along with Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. We've got criminals in prisons, Chairman, who are actually conducting and engineering crimes from prison, from cell phones. What's the FCC doing to stop that?
Yeah, President Trump is making America safe again. This is just one example. Most people don't think about it, but when you put some of the worst behind bars, they think they can't hurt you anymore. And it turns out that's not the case. We have contraband cell phones that are flowing into prisons by the tens of thousands every single year. They're being used to order hits, kidnapping, to run drug operations, and for years, local and state jails asked the federal government, including the Biden administration, for help to authorize them to jam contraband cell phones so they're no more effective than an expensive paperweight, and they didn't get the help they needed. But that changes now. So just this month, we're going to vote at the FCC to allow state and local prisons to jam cell phones, and it can make a real difference in terms of improving public safety across the country.
It's a massive story. I mean, thousands of crimes being carried out, committed, engineered from behind prison walls. That's about to change. You talked, Chairman, about making America safe again under President Trump, of course. China, communist China, obviously a huge threat to the United States on many levels, including communications. And talk more about that. The FCC is uncovering some pretty disturbing details there and doing something about it.
Yeah, at the FCC, one of our main focuses is making sure our communications networks are safe and secure. And one of the biggest threats to that comes from communist China. The CCP every single day is poking and prodding and trying to find weaknesses in our communications networks. And we've been taking concrete action. For instance, it was the FCC that took action on Huawei and ZTE, effectively spy gear, years ago. And we set up a new Council on National Security inside the FCC. One of the things we're doing is this. There's no piece of electronics that can be used in this country, from a cell phone to a TV, without going through a testing procedure to make sure it's safe for use in the U.S., including national security checks so Huawei and other spy gear isn't sneaking into the country. Well, it turns out that about 75% of all electronics testing takes place inside China. And what we found is that a handful or more of labs are themselves owned or controlled by the CCP. So think about this. We're trying to stop CCP spy gear from coming into the U.S., and the entities that are checking to make sure it's not are in China and are owned by the CCP. That's stopping on our watch. And just this week, we've now kicked 7 labs out of this system that are in China, and we've got more in the works. But we're going to stay focused here on keeping our network secure.
Yeah, President Trump making America safe again, but also sane again, it sounds like, Chairman. And the FCC is a big part of that. That includes the media landscape, a monopoly of sorts over the years, New York City, LA, I mean, kind of the big powerhouses kind of dominating the media landscape and biased in many instances, needless to say. How's the FCC working to change that on the ground?
Broadcasters across the country are differently situated than other speakers, different than cable, different than streamers. And the reason why is they have a license from the FCC. And when we license a broadcaster, we're necessarily excluding other speakers from being able to use that spectrum. So because of that, they have to operate in the public interest, not a narrow interest. Now, over the years, the FCC has stepped away from enforcing that public interest mandate, and I don't think we're better off for it. If you look at the mainstream legacy media, Disney, ABC, Comcast, NBC, so much of their content now is dictated by executives that are sitting in New York and Hollywood. And so we are reinforcing the public interest mandate, and we're trying to re-empower independent broadcasters. And what you guys are doing is such a great example, because there's a yearning in this country for faith-based programming, and you guys are meeting that, and we at the FCC want to make sure that you can do your job.
Yeah. Along those lines, what are you doing to combat the media bias? What can you do at the FCC to fight against that long-time entrenched leftist bias?
Yeah, President Trump ran directly at the legacy mainstream media. He refused to accept the idea that, again, those executives in New York and Hollywood can dictate what we think, what we can say. And the change is already happening. You're looking right now, NPR is defunded, PBS has been defunded, CBS has now agreed to return to more fact-based objective journalism. In fact, they put in a new ombudsman to address bias issues. It's pretty interesting to see who's upset by that. The New York Times, for instance, ran effectively a hit piece on this new CBS ombudsman because he wants to return that organization to more fact-based reporting. So there's more work to be done on this front, but we're starting to see some significant progress, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, when the Times does a hit piece on you, you're probably over the mark.
Exactly right.
Last question, big picture goals for the FCC over the next few years with President Trump in office. What is your trajectory, and what are you really looking to accomplish?
Yeah, we're trying to keep up with President Trump first and foremost. His level of energy and productivity is really inspiring, and I think we're all competing in government to try to keep up. Our big agenda is what we've unveiled and we call the Build America agenda. There's still too many parts of the country that don't have access to high-speed internet, so we've put together a concrete plan to get more spectrum out there to bridge the digital divide, permitting reforms so we get more high-speed builds. We're looking to bolster our space economy and make sure we have the workforce to actually build this infrastructure out. So we've got a concrete multi-step plan, Build America, to finish the job of connecting rural America to modern network infrastructure.
Great things are happening. Chairman, thank you. We appreciate it. Keep up the great work. God
Good
bless.
to be with you. Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Chairman.
Stakelbeck Tonight, my all-new nightly series on current events through a bold biblical lens. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching, and God bless.